Blog Talk Radio.
Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot, oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girlz. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here are your supernatural hosts, Patricia Baker and Becky Andreasson. Supernatural Girlz.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girlz. I am your host, Patricia Baker, and we have a very special co-host this evening. Helene Olson is joining us. Hi, Helene.
Good evening, Patricia. How are you tonight?
I am fine. It's so much fun to have you back on the show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, you're welcome. You know how much I enjoy it, Patricia. It's fine.
And this is going to be great.
It is, yeah.
Well, we
so
have to pick up a Helene
I'm not used
tradition.
to this anymore.
I know. See, we've had this thing to perfection, but we're going to get back in the group. I just wanted to say that we've got to do a Helene tradition and talk about the weather. We always did that.
Well, I think you mean complain about the weather. Because
kind of.
you know, I mean, it's a little disheartening. Let's face it, we're in delightful New England, and we love the seasonal changes, and it's all great. But, you know, we're constantly hitting these strange bumps. And the bump I heard yesterday, and you know how little I pay attention to the television, Patricia, was that there were going to be snow flurries tonight.
Oh, God,
and
no.
I just couldn't
Say
even believe that entered my ears. You know, it was like, I don't even want to know. Especially if I'm sleeping, I don't want to know. Oh, yeah. I do not want to wake up in the morning and see white stuff on the ground. I just don't. They weren't talking about that. But it was more like, well, it's cold enough that since it's raining, we might have some snow flurries. And it just sent my heart spinning. And then I said, oh, cut it out. It'll be fine tomorrow, whatever. But, you know. We've had it rough, but I know. Spring, they keep telling us, is really going to be here. And I think we saw a few days of it. So let's hope more is on the way. Goodness me. No, I'm not a good weather predictor, but the way I'm getting it is it's going to be a little miserable like this for a while, and then suddenly it's going to turn 95 degrees, and everybody's going to be grumbling all over again, you know. That's right. We'll be complaining it's too warm. Oh, gosh. Well, it's so much fun to have you back, Helene, and I wanted to share some paranormal news that you already know about because you have seen these remarkable photographs, and I'll set the stage a little bit for everybody. I'm going to post these on the Supernatural Girlz Facebook page and on our Supernatural Girlz website, so be sure to go to both places to see these because we want to hear what you think these photos are. Now, they were taken with a Trail Cam Pro, which is a camera that's just set up on a tree. It's an infrared camera. It can take pictures at night in total darkness and in the daytime. And we've caught some pretty wild stuff before, haven't we, Helene, in the past? Oh, yes. You really have. But this time, what surprised me, and I know you too, is that we got some very strange photos that were taken during the day. And these photos, it looks like something out of a movie, but I swear to God, these have not been photoshopped. These came right from the camera, and they are untouched. And it looks like a massive shadow that is so dense and so thick, and it's moving, and it actually looks like it's beginning to follow one of the workmen that was on the driveway. This thing it was huge, wasn't it, Helene? It is huge. It's huge. Yeah, I picked it up as nature energy, but, you know, they are amazing photos, Patricia. They are. So we're going to share these photos with all of you, and
We want your feedback. We want to know what you think. So be sure to go to the Supernatural Girls Facebook page after the show or tomorrow if it's too late this evening, and also on our Supernatural Girls website. That's supernaturalgirls.com, and make sure that you sign up for our newsletter so that you can take part in all the giveaways and all of the things that are being offered. And Helene, please tell us something about what you've been up to, because I know you're still doing your wonderful readings and classes and everything else.
Yes, well, right now I just finished a 2-part series that was a huge energy work with the angelic realm. And I got some really beautiful letters about it. So right now I'm just going to say thank you to Mary Ann. You know who you are. I just got a letter from her this evening, a lovely letter. And probably, I haven't scheduled the exact date yet, but sometime at the end of May or beginning of June, I'm going to be doing a very powerful healing and well-being session with very specific entities who are coming in for the group. So if people want to go over to my website at angelslighthouse.com, they can find that post and sign up for my newsletter, so they'll be sure to get the info on when that's going to be. But that's going to be extremely powerful. And people who are psychic or intuitive will be able to feel these beings near them. And they are the ones that I work with in my healing sessions. So it's going to be great. Metatron's going to show up for that one, a few other angels, and also some sort of ascended master healing beings that I work with. So it's really going to be really powerful. So I hope people take a look at that. Yeah.
That sounds great. Yes, so everybody please go to Helene's website, angelslighthouse.com, to sign up for that. That is a do-not-miss workshop for sure. Is that going to be 2 parts again, or?
It's 2 parts, but it's pretty intense energy. So it's something that people will get instruction on before the class and also during the class. But, yeah. Yep.
Excellent.
Great.
Excellent. Yeah. And I'm going to be on
angels,
your show.
You know what? Oh, yes, this Thursday.
Yes.
We are going to talk about dreaming, because you are an expert dream analyst, and you have helped me in a big way. I think it was last year. And it's going to be a great snippet of information for people so that they can contact you. And also just to talk about our dream states and what they can represent and how we can control them, because that was something that I don't get into too much is my dreams, but you were very, very helpful, Patricia, and it really helped me get through the night after I talked to you a few times, so it was great.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to coming on the show and talking about my new handbook, DreamComm, C-O-M-M.
Yes.
Is available. Believe it or not,
it's also posted on my website, and it's available on Kindle, right?
Yes,
nice
it
book.
is on Amazon.com.
Very good guide. Yeah.
Very inexpensive. For $3.99, you can get everything you need in a quick and easy-to-read format. So go ahead and take a look at it. It's good stuff. It's going to help everybody who wants to get into and understand their own dreams. So more power to us all, right?
We are powerful. Every one of us is powerful. We just don't realize the depth of our power, I think.
Oh, that's for sure. So we got to step up and start manifesting our power and who we really are. And we've got a great guest to talk about all of these wonderful things. His name is Robert Kopecky, and he has written a great book that you and I read this week and really enjoyed. And even, Helene, you said your husband Arthur read the book and enjoyed it as well.
He started reading it, but I took it away from him, so he'll get back to it. But honestly, I was super impressed with the simplistic eloquence that Robert was able to describe these steps to higher spiritual awareness. This is something that is inherently difficult to teach to people in one session reading or something like that. It truly is a path that people have to investigate, read about, get into going to their workshops, to listening to your show, Patricia, and many others. And I just thought that the way he phrased the whole book was with humor, with grace, and with absolute profoundly simple truth, you know, and I hope that everybody goes out and buys a copy. I know I'll be recommending it to my clients.
Oh, absolutely. It's called How to Survive Life and Death, A Guide for Happiness in This World and Beyond. And Robert is also an Emmy-nominated art director for television, so a very creative guy. And Robert, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Helene. I hope I can live up to those wonderful things you said.
You better.
You already did.
Very nice. Thanks. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for spending your Saturday evening with us. The book was remarkable, and gosh, we have a lot of questions for you. Now,
terrific. That's why I'm here. I'm ready.
Good. You're going to answer them? Okay. So you
will
had
try.
three near-death experiences. That's an awful lot, my goodness. And the first one, why don't you start there? That was a car accident. What happened?
It was a car accident, yeah. There might be 3 too many, actually, for most people. I don't recommend this path to enlightenment, if you can avoid it.
It's a rough ride, huh?
It was a rough ride at different times. The first incident happened when I was in my late 20s, and I was kind of in that state of mind of semi-consciousness, where I was basically following an ambitious kind of life course, where I just wanted to become known and to accomplish things and to be recognized and things like that. And so I didn't have the same kind of consciousness that one might have after, following a spiritual path for a while. And so in that regard, I don't think I was able to understand it or even acknowledge it as much as I have many years later. But what happened basically was that I was in a single car accident and sort of immediately found myself at the level of a street lamp, with sort of moths flying around the street lamp, and it was twilight, and I was looking down, and it was the car that I had been driving that was wrecked and leaking fluid on the ground, as I was, too. I could see my body beneath me in not so good a condition, and I could look over into people's yards and see lights snapping on in their back porches and people coming out of their houses because they had heard the noise of the crash, and I heard people hollering to other people to get an ambulance and saw the ambulance pull up and load my body in. The whole thing, I was kind of eavesdropping on people, Wow. I was trying to communicate with people, but to no avail. No one seemed to hear me. And I was not alone. I didn't really recognize the presence I was with. I didn't really turn around and come face to face with who was with me, but there was a benevolent presence with me that was kind of up and behind me a little bit, then rather gently shepherded me out of the scene. They kind of passed beneath me and into what I describe as being sort of a warm cotton wool fog of sorts. And then I found myself in kind of a pastoral setting, almost like an outdoor cafe kind of a thing, having a rather pleasant sort of interview with a person or being that I don't really recall. I can't really describe them to you, but the nature of the conversation was kind of like this, kind of like a pleasant interview sort of thing, where things got hashed out. The real details, I don't really remember either, the actual details of it. And then about 20 hours later or so, I regained consciousness and was rather kind of surreptitiously released from the hospital when I guess I didn't have health insurance at the time, and they basically just kind of wheelchaired me out and put me in a yellow cab and sent me home.
Oh my goodness!
And that was my first experience, which I subsequently kind of, I think, suppressed a little bit because, or a lot, in fact, because I was in a state of being that really didn't allow the sort of extra-dimensional complications that my experience indicated,
So this didn't make you go, oh, wow, now I'm going to take on a different path because I understand that we survive beyond the body. That didn't do any of that for you.
No, something, it registered on me that I had this extracorporeal experience, but ego rushed right in to the vacuum that was there and filled me with fears about how I could manage the circumstances of it, what I was going to tell my wife. It was her car. She was out of town, and I'd crashed it. What I was going to tell other people, how I was going to explain the bandages wrapped around my head and stuff, you know. I'd had a concussion, and so I was laying low for a while. I did manage to jump on a bicycle and ride back to the scene of the crash, and I walked around the neighborhood and looked, you know, behind the hedges and in over the fences and stuff that I could see down, and everything was the way that I had seen it from up above. And so I knew that I had been, as you know, up in the air looking down, but it really did not change the course of my life at that time. I was picked back up by an egoic material set of needs, and I followed that life and just kind of suppressed it, pushed it aside.
So did you ever share it with anybody at the time and say, hey, this happened to me, or you just never talked about it until?
I never talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never talked about it with anyone, really. I may have mentioned it to one or two people over, you know, the course of some years, just kind of in passing, but never with any real conviction or in the kind of conversation that would carry any weight. You know, it was, and lots of times, you know, when you talk to people about anything that's spiritual or extra-dimensional, they don't want to hear about it either, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
unless they're listening to Supernatural Girls, of course, then they want to hear all about it. So
right, yeah. Unless they're on our page, you know. I mean,
That's
there's a
right.
lot more consciousness. There's much more consciousness in the world now than there was then. This was in the 80s when it happened, and it just the kind of understanding of the nature and potential of life just was not very common then, as what we have now, I think.
Right, it wasn't. And just to, again, go back to the car accident, this was a one-car accident, and what happened was, as I was reading in the book, that your tape kind of self-destructed, so you were trying to pull it out of the machine, and then that's how
remember cassette tapes?
Oh, gosh, yes.
We're going back now, right?
We are.
We're dating ourselves. Cassette
that's
tapes.
Right.
Yeah, and they kind of go bloop, and you'd know something terrible had happened, and I grabbed the cassette tape and ejected it, and it had the tape pulled out of it, and oh boy, and boom, just like that, I had hit something I didn't know really what happened. I guess I slightly grazed the outturned tire of a car, and it sent me into a telephone pole just like that.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes. Well, but you didn't have the tunnel experience either. You had a bit of a different experience, just kind of more of like an out-of-body where you were not feeling any pain and you were able to see the scene.
No, and it was a pretty profound experience in this sensory way of thinking about it, because you know I wasn't experiencing gravity. I was aware that my thinking was not the same as it is now, and after years of meditation, the years of meditation that I've since practiced that kind of crystallized these experiences again for me, I know that my thinking was more holistic. It was less of a serial nature, you know, it was less impulsive, and you know, just weightless and free and comfortable. All of those things, the sensory aspect of it, I recall. I recall quite well.
Well, I have to interject something here, and I'm curious about this because I had a similar event happen to me in the course of an accident where I was above my body seeing everything that was going on. And until that point, because I was fairly young at that point, I was terrified of death.
Right.
But in that moment of being outside my body, I felt I had died. I knew that. And when I eventually woke up, I was angry. I got to tell you, I was like, why didn't I just stay there? It was awesome.
Right.
Did you feel anger at all at coming back?
That in my third experience, I did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in that first one, I didn't. However, I do think I felt like you, Helene, that I didn't fear death the same way after that.
Right, I had no fear of death after that.
And I think I approached life with a certain devil may care attitude, kind of. Like I know that I'm not really going to die. It's not that I flirted with death and stuff like that, but I never feared death quite as much as I had before that, I think, since that. And I really don't fear death now at all, especially after the other two. But don't ask me to prove it right away, because I like things like they are. You know? I enjoy moving through this life and learning what I'm learning in this life.
3 near-death experiences, that is just incomprehensible to me. I had one so many years ago, and I'm of a certain age as well, and so that was enough. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that you were brought 3? Why do you think that was part of your experience?
That's the kind of question that I have trouble answering. I'm not really certain exactly why that it was required of me to do that. But each one is distinctly different from the next, and so as I go through them and tell you, you can see that there are different lessons to be learned in each one. Obviously, in that first one, what I learned is that I'm, like an avatar. I'm a spiritual being who's riding around in this physical body to have a physical sensory experience in this world. And that was really the big lesson there. And then naturally that there is an intelligence and a consciousness beyond this, and that there's some kind of reasonable plan in store, or the fact that I had this kind of genteel conversation with someone about sort of important things that I don't really recall so much, but I think that with each experience too, the experiences got a little more definitive, or a little more powerfully informative in my life, also because I was moving more towards a spiritual path in my life as I got older. They were spread out over, coincidentally, 13 years. That's how long.
Well, one of your spirit guides or guardians is a monk, right?
I'm not surprised, because I am missing all my hair in exactly the same spot.
He's just smiling. He's saying, what I heard him say is he has arrived.
Nice.
I think that I'm a monk, or have been, to tell you the truth,
because in my third eye.
I behave
Very
like it an
soul.
awful lot.
Very gentle soul. Yeah.
Well, thank you. That's wonderful insight. I appreciate that. Chime in any time, Helene.
Well, he's not saying much. I just heard him say he has arrived. So you were meant, obviously, just by your experiences and everything you've learned, to be in the place you are now with mindfulness and conscious awareness of spirituality. So that's awesome. But I don't
clearly
that's
very
why.
Often, so. Right? Clearly that's why. I mean, so that I can be here, and so that, God forbid, you don't have to go through this stuff.
Oh, we all have to go through our stuff, Robert.
We do.
Yeah.
We do, and that's another message, is that we live and die many lives in this one life, even, and that we need to experience the sort of death and passing of certain lives that we're in, to move on to kind of a higher plane within the framework of this physical life.
Well, I love the advice and the guidance that you've given people in the book, because it is profoundly simple, as I said earlier. And it's very hard sometimes to explain to people how to get on a spiritual path. And I loved your 3 steps to doing that. And those things seem monumental to some people when they first hear it. But I think your book is a great, great guidance for how people can get started on a spiritual path. And it's sort of like a a world teaching to the collective consciousness of people who want to get somewhere but don't know where to start or how to step into it.
Right.
And
right. Thank you.
Just getting to the very first place that love is the most powerful energy in the universe. It's all about love, and that's all. And that is really difficult concept, I think, for people to understand. What has been your experience with people understanding that?
Yeah, well, in each of my experiences, the one thing that was clear was that I was being returned to love. You know, that there had been sort of a circuit of life that had brought me to that place, and that on the other side, when I sort of peeked behind the curtain, so to speak, there was love. And then when I was able to look at my life in general, I realized that every place love was showing itself, or a lack of love was showing itself, and that I needed to be present for that more than anything, because everything good, everything beautiful, everything wonderful that came about, everything that I was seeking, really was brought about by the presence of love. And the fact that love underlies everything and is always there, is never going away. As I grew more open-hearted over the years, and especially after I really started a spiritual practice and meditation, then it just became very, very clear to me that there is this field of love that is almost like a quantum field, right? It can form your life if you have faith in it and you invest your heart in it. You know.
Mm-hmm. What has the reaction of people that you talk to who've read your book? I mean, when you talk about your first step of radical kindness, that's a hard concept for people. And I thought that you spoke it eloquently, and it was just so perfect the way you spoke it. But, you know, we live in a sometimes extraordinarily unkind world. And people sort of rail at being kind to someone that they don't perceive as being kind. How has the reaction been with people that you talk to on that who are just starting out?
Well, it's been really terrific, actually, and I think the reason is because I kind of present it as a challenge to people, right? Mm-hmm. I don't just say, hey, you've got to be radically kind to everybody. Mm-hmm. You know, go out and be radically kind. I say, try this. Give this a try. I dare you. I challenge you. Just for a day, or preferably 2 days, because I think 2 days really does the trick. Mm-hmm. Every place you go and everybody you meet, everything you do, and every set of circumstances you're in your life, be as absolutely kind, as sincerely, authentically kind to everybody as you can be, without, you know, behaving like a boob, you know, or being sarcastic or something. And just, you know, look people in the eye and smile with your eyes and open your heart and be as kind to them as you can be, and watch what happens. And if it does not radically transform your life by the end of the second day, you know, I'll give you your money back. Because it really is dramatically transformative. And so when people try that, when they just, you know, give it a go, even a little bit, even if they're not able to do it, you know, for 2 days, even if they're only able to do it in fits and starts, they realize that it's a real thing. You know, like this field of love, there's this fabric of kindness that's alive in the world. And, you know, as we know, and I imagine you guys are on this page, that what you put out is reflected back to you in life. So when you're being kind naturally, you're engaging in that fabric of kindness, and suddenly you find all of these allies and sort of co-conspirators, you know, in this beautiful world where everybody's almost kind of winking and smiling at you and helping you out with things that you didn't even know you needed help with. It's really miraculous. So when people try that, when they try it, they discover it's true. And in that regard... It is
true, because the universe is so incredibly neutral, isn't it? So if we're walking around being mean or unkind, you're right. That's exactly what comes back to us.
It's neutral in a way, but, you know, in another way, I think it's, for me, I just consider a wildflower growing through the cracks in an asphalt parking lot, Is that neutrality? That's an expression of beauty and creativity, and that is what's present in the world all the time. So yes, the world is neutral in some respects, but there's also this beautiful effervescent energy that's alive in everything all the time that you can tap into and that blossoms in your life. You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree with you, and I look at the neutrality as the reflection. Whatever you're putting out is what's coming back.
Right.
And I don't feel that anyone is picked out specifically for negativity in the way that people think they are. They walk around, I have such a bad life, everything happens to me. Well, if you keep saying that, that's what you're telling the universe. You're reflecting back to yourself, really.
As a man thinks, so he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not that terrible things don't continue happening in the world, obviously, when you're walking around being radically kind, but you become part of the antidote. You join the antidote, the field of healing, and kindness. And then the world really is not the same place to you anymore. So in your life, it makes a significant difference, and naturally it does that in the lives of everybody you come into contact with, too.
I think it extends to places we don't see, right, Patricia?
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think what's great about the exercise, the challenge you put forward in your book to try this out, it puts you in charge. So instead of reacting to everything around you, it gives you a task to do that puts you in charge. So your task is to be radically kind. And I think that's an important aspect of this, because there is a lot of reaction that takes place. Things are happening around us that are not nice, not loving, and difficult sometimes to even know about. But when you see yourself in charge of how you are going to respond or how you are going to move forward, then it gives a whole different perspective as well.
Right, you own your approach to life. You personally own it. And it's a good way, too, of sort of cracking a slightly tougher nut, which is that when you are of service to others, you are being of service to yourself and to the world. Mm-hmm. A lot of people they're not going to respond real well if you say, hey, you need to be of service to people. Go do something useful for other people. A lot of people aren't really going to react to that all that well. But with the radical kindness exercise, it helps them to discover that there is this sense of giving that allows more receiving in your life, too.
Well, that should interest a lot of people, I'm sure, that last statement you made. But let's hold that thought, and when we come back, I want to hear more about the path you took after your first near-death experience. And we are going to take a short commercial break. We will be right back. Stay tuned, everyone.
Are you ready for a new experience of freedom and powerful connection? Would you like a positive, effortless change in your life? Then come to CosmicFusion.com, where we offer the most advanced energy clearing and expansion techniques in the world, with a quantum vortex energy to activate your divine blueprint and life's purpose. When your soul leads the way with cosmic fusion and quantum vortex energy, you can break clear of past difficulties and blocks with the power of the Source. With Cosmic Fusion, the Source energy does the work for you. It's easy and effortless. Listen to our free meditation right from our Cosmic Fusion website, the Cosmic Code Meditation. Sign up for one of our interactive webinars today. Come to Cosmic Fusion, www.KOSMICfusion.com, to experience an effortless awakening and transformation. Are you ready for an upgrade? Are you ready for a new experience of living in the fifth dimensional magic and powerful connection? Then visit CosmicFusion.com today. CosmicFusion.com.
Bonjour, this is Veronique Raskin, founder of the Organic Wine Company. As one of the pioneers of the organic wine movement, since 1980, I have brought you the very best and most authentic organic wines directly to your table. I work with small family estates who grow certified organic grapes and produce exceptional wines. You can purchase our wines individually from our website at theorganicwinecompany.com or join one of our wine clubs. Our organic wines are perfect for you and for your family as gifts for friends and relatives, and they are simply spectacular for the holidays. Visit us at theorganicwinecompany.com to enjoy the very best organic wines conveniently delivered to your door. I am Veronique Raskin, passionate about my mission. I offer to you vegan, organic, and biodynamic wines, wines made by people of the heart, wines with a heart. Au revoir. Call us at 1-888-ECO-WINE.
Your property tax bill. Have you seen it lately? It's frightening. Your property taxes are going up while your home value is going down. It's time to fight back and win. For the real truth about the property tax system, get attorney Pat Quintilian's book, Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Attorney Quintilian answers all your questions and gives you the facts you need to fight a property tax bill that is spiraling out of control. You'll also read about what happens to property owners who don't check their property records, only to find out too late they're taxed on square footage, fixtures, and even buildings that they don't own. Is this happening to you? Learn your rights. Buy attorney Pat Quintilian's book today. Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Available on Amazon.com.
Welcome back. We are having a wonderful discussion. Helene Olson is my co-host this evening, and we are speaking with Robert Kopecky, who is the author of How to Survive Life and Death, a guide for happiness in this world and beyond. So, Robert, you had your first near-death experience, and then you went back to doing what? You were working in the television industry as an art director, is that correct?
Well, yeah, at that time I was an illustrator mostly, so I was doing a lot of different kinds of illustration for lots of different publications and the like. And back in those days we had album covers and stuff like that I used to do, and graphic design, and some underground cartooning, too. I was living in Los Angeles at the time.
And so you went back to, you said, not a spiritual path, but more of an ego-driven path.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I wasn't really allowing spirituality into my life very much. You know, I had kind of a unusual upbringing. I was raised in an alcoholic household, and so things were always kind of up in the air, and adults were behaving sort of inappropriately and irresponsibly and stuff around me a lot. And so I started reading a lot when I was a kid, and I grew up on the outskirts of San Diego, and so I headed off into the hills a lot and spent a lot of time in nature. And so I always had this kind of attachment to a subtler world, I suppose you might say. I had some, I grew up near the border, so I had some experiences with indigenous people and with the sort of the magical potential of the world I lived in. So when when I was going about my business regularly, I always had this kind of one foot in another world, and that helps my creativity quite a bit, I think, because I could create intuitively, and so it worked out well for me. I was taken care of in that respect. So even when I was kind of blundering through life without having much connection to my spiritual side, I still had an attachment that was there, that was always tugging on me a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it sounds like you had basically some great experiences with nature, and you were called to that, as well as speaking with and learning from an indigenous culture that was nearby, Native American. So, yeah, it sounds like you did have an introduction there at least.
Yeah, but I was in Los Angeles, and my career was going well, and all kinds of things were happening. It was kind of an exciting time, There was punk and new wave, and I was sort of part of the Melrose scene in Los Angeles in the early 80s, and, it was exciting and had a lot of stuff going on. I got married to a beautiful woman when I was 22, quite young, and, we were just living life, so I wasn't really thinking about the spiritual aspect of things very much.
So tell us now about your second near-death experience. What happened then?
Okay. Let me see. It might be good to just give us a little bit of backstory because it all joins together. When we look back on our lives, they're so scripted, right? I mean, it's kind of, I couldn't have written it this way, but it is how it turned out. I was actually working for somebody on, it's a fellow who had done all the clothing, supplied all the clothing for the film Blade Runner. And the central character in that movie, who was played by the actor Rutger Hauer, was this tall, blonde-haired clone, And this guy I was working for, this German guy, looked just like him and claimed to have been the person that the character was modeled on in the movie. And I took him an illustration job for a magazine he was starting. I was 28 years old. It was my 28th birthday. And he said, well, when I turned 28, I quit everything and I went around the world. And I thought, And I went home to my wife and I said, honey, how would you feel about quitting everything and going around the world? And she said, okay, when do we leave?
Oh, my goodness. Really?
Yeah. And we had been looking at condos and stuff, and it was not very heartening. We were looking at, for what we could afford, there were condos with views of the parking lot and stuff like that, And so she agreed, and we took off and went on this 1-year voyage around the world. And a trip like that is pretty mystical in nature, whether you intend it to be or not, Now, knowing what I know about karma, what I didn't know then, it was a very karmatic journey, and started learning a lot about myself, and we sought out a lot of kind of mystical places too. We went to a lot of cathedrals, and we ended up in the South Pacific, island hopping on a copra boat, kind of a small freighter, going through the Tuamotu archipelago and up to the Marquesas Islands, and went to see tiki and stuff like that. And the one thing that it did do was kind of drive a wedge into our relationship, and it ended up falling apart after we returned. Maybe it's because we didn't have that kind of ongoing excitement anymore. We were back to the real world. And we broke up, and I took the opportunity to move to New York City, where for some reason I had always been drawn to. And as soon as I got to New York City, I kind of fell in love with everything that it had to offer, and my career went very well. Again, I was very busy, and I got connected to something? I need to step back just a second and tell you that when I was with my wife, when we'd first gotten back from our trip, I got a phone call that my Aunt Ruth was dying unexpectedly. She'd gone for a simple medical procedure and had something had happened, and she was brain dead and comatose.
Oh, no.
And I went to the hospital. She had taken care of me when I was a kid. She helped me out and took me out of kind of the crazy situations I was in sometimes, and I traveled with her and stayed with her at times. And I was at her bedside then when my cousin made the decision to unplug her life support and stuff, and I knew that she was in the room with us still. But I imagined that it was kind of the same thing as my first near-death experience. I was not really able to process it in my life, and I kind of started losing purchase sort of on the things that had been keeping me going. And so by the time I moved to New York and got involved in the life of Manhattan, I was already starting to sort of flirt with the edges of things, and I started to kind of live more on the dark side. I became more interested, I think, in the dark side of life, and I wasn't really in the spiritual life.
Meaning what? What was the dark side to you?
Well, what's not light? What's not spiritual? I was engaging in sort of behavior and in communities that were kind of dangerous and crazy. A lot of, it's like we were saying earlier, when you have a certain energy, the world will reflect it to you. And I engaged in that, and I sought it out, and I was putting it out, and it was coming back to me. And it got to the point where my life was kind of spinning out of control, and sort of everything that could go wrong kind of started to go wrong and precipitated in my life in this kind of tragic cascade of things, leading to the dark night of the soul, basically. And this one night when my body just started to give up, and I found myself laying on the floor of my apartment and being enveloped by a bright white cloud, like a bright white cloud, like when you're flying in a jet and you're inside of a bright cloud. It filled the room. I lost all feeling in my body, and all sensory input was gone. And I just was experiencing this again, weightlessly and painlessly, and not alone, but not engaged with whoever I actually was with at the time. They were, once again, it felt like kind of like behind me, sort of benevolently guiding me. And a screen opened up, so to speak, in this cloud, and began showing scenes of my life. And I remember thinking, my goodness, this happens. Your scenes from your life are shown to you. And they weren't scenes like the best of. They weren't the greatest hits. They were kind of seminal or pivotal things that had happened in my life, kind of unique circumstances of personal relationships and stuff that maybe I had sort of suppressed or hadn't thought about what their significance might actually be.
Did you think that this was kind of unfinished business? This is like a review of your life and some of the things that you kind of screwed up, or it kind of sounds like that.
Yeah, but they weren't like huge things like, look, this is when you really blew that. They weren't things like that. They were like, look at how in this one little moment that you had with this one person on this one day, look at how significant that is in the big picture of things. And the lesson that I gleaned from it ultimately was that every moment can be of much greater significance than we think it is. That in the course of our lives, we often just skate over the circumstances of our life without giving it much thought. But in each and every moment, in each contact we have with one another, things of really profound significance can be happening. that it isn't something that you have to pay for in some eternal future, because eternity is in this moment. Eternity is in every moment. And so right now, or tomorrow when I'm talking with the grocer, or dealing with somebody that I don't know and wouldn't normally think about, there may be something of profound significance to it in this eternal moment. Does that make any sense to you? Because that's what I got from it.
It makes sense. I mean, it's certainly in the timeline of our lives, how we touch people. We may not even be aware of it in moments, and so this awareness that you came to by watching these scenes on a screen, it sounds like it gave you that deeper understanding of the significance of every interaction.
Yes.
There's a lot of power in that.
There is, yeah. I was just about to say that when I look back on it now, it was the beginnings of my awareness of how powerful we really are as creative beings, on how we can precipitate the forms of our life. Today I had an old friend in town, and I was showing him around Brooklyn, and he had been saying at one point earlier in the day, there's this guy back in San Francisco I would really like you to meet sometime. He's been really important in my life, and I wish I could introduce you to him. And we're walking around in Brooklyn, and there was the guy.
Oh, my goodness.
on the street, right there.
That's a coincidence, right, Robert?
Right. And so that kind of power, that kind of potential, I mean, it is really awesome. And generally, the reason why people don't work with it more often is because they just can't believe it, Mm-hmm. It just doesn't. It seems so unlikely. Mm-hmm. Yet, when we can kind of invest each eternal moment with that kind of creative significance, these things can happen in our lives, and do happen in our lives.
So now it sounds like, and certainly today, quite an example of this, you had a perfectly synergistic moment of running into this person on the street. And do you find that this happens now more often for you?
Yes, definitely. And it's because of this technology of the heart, so to speak, this medium of love that is in this world and in this life. And when you just realize that there is an invisible mechanism underlying all of this, and you invest yourself and have faith in it, then it just begins to operate like it does operate. And when we create obstacles to it and remove ourselves from it, then it's not happening as much, or if it is happening, we're not noticing.
So that's what you experienced when you kind of threw yourself into the darker side of life.
Well, no, with that, I was really creating obstacles then, and the dying, the second near death was a wake up call. I had to die from that life, and I did.
So you had the white light around you, and you had the screen being shown to you of mm-hmm. these pivotal moments, as you described mm-hmm. them, and so then. What happened? I mean, did you find yourself waking up in the hospital again, or you just came to in your apartment?
My girlfriend at the time was there with me, and her voice started entering into the scene that I was witnessing, and I could hear her fear. She started saying, "You're not going to do it. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that." And I remember sort of cognitively thinking, again, that if I did that, is that dying? And what difference would it make, because I would be dead if I did that? And then I heard her say, do I have to call someone? And I heard the fear in her voice, and it was like a call to action, to return, to try to ameliorate the pain that she was having. And I returned, her face was quite close to mine, and all the features of the room began to fill back in. The clouds started to subside, and the light got sharp and dark and hard and contrasty again, and there was her face right in front of mine, and she was obviously terrified, and I was back.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I, like 2 days later, I said, honey, we're breaking up. I'm leaving. I'm going someplace else and doing something else with my life. I don't know exactly what yet, but I knew that I had to put an end to that part of my life. And because that part of my life had ended in that moment.
It sounds like they were letting you know, or some part of you was letting you know, if you continued, it would end for good.
Yeah, these were near-death experiences, because here I am, right? I mean, I'm still with us,
right.
And I was meant to be, apparently. I still really didn't get the message, It sounds crazy, I know, but some people just,
What do you attribute that to? Because I know the first one you said, well, it was the 80s, this kind of thing wasn't really talked about, and people weren't really into this type of discussion back then. But what about this time?
Well, I'd kind of isolated myself from a lot of normal life, so to speak. I wasn't engaged in my profession the same way, or my professional community the same way as I was the first time, because I'd been running around with a bunch of crazies and stuff and leading this kind of wild lifestyle. And so it really was just me. And so I can only attribute it to the person that I thought that I was, or, what you might call ego, or the material life, the limited consciousness of the material life that's dictated to us by our ego, And so it was pride, hard-headedness, stubbornness, the unwillingness to surrender, the feeling that I would be able to overcome this, that I would be able to figure this out, I'd be able to control it somehow. I needed to change things. I needed to get out of there and find a different life where I would be able to figure it out. And so I assumed authority again, unfortunately.
Unfortunately?
Well, it's about intuitive intelligence, right? That's what you guys deal with that a lot. And intellectual intelligence is really a different thing. I mean, all of these awful things that happened to me, I gave a great deal of thought to, oftentimes, first, And now if I don't think about it, it works out much, much better, right? I'm informed from a different source than my brain.
Very different. Yeah, very different. Yeah. So here you are. You've now left your girlfriend. Boy, these women get left in the dust when you start your life over. First your wife, now this girlfriend. So now you're leaving this trail behind you. And now you're starting a new life. And what happens next? This is very exciting.
It is, isn't it? I'm getting more excited than I was at the time. I'm telling you about it. At the time, I didn't know what I was doing, to tell you the truth. I just knew that I had to change, but everywhere I went, I took myself, right? Mm-hmm. And it was this life that ultimately did have to die, that I did have to end. This life of my ego, of my will, of my pride. And I moved back to the desert Southwest, which was kind of home to me, and kind of resumed sort of the life of a dusty vagabond, kind of. I was able to continue my career because I could work remotely from places. I was still well enough known with what I did, which is mostly illustration at the time. I got involved with another woman, and my consciousness in terms of my relationships was not good. I clearly was not handling it well. And I was engaging in these repetitive cycles of behavior where I wasn't present in the right way for my relationships, and it was terribly unfair to those people, and I've done what I could to make it up at this point, and that's incomplete. That's a process that I'm still working on. But I started snowbirding. I went back and forth between New York and Arizona. I had places in each location. And finally, I decided that I needed to sort of make a stand and try to face up to life. And I proposed to this woman in Arizona several years later and decided to move there and stop going back and forth. Gave up my the place I'd secured in New York City and went there to live with her. And it was a Super Bowl Sunday, like the second day that I got back, and she was baking scones, and I had gone to watch the football game with some friends. And I came out of the football game, and it was a crowded college town, kind of on a sort of a holiday night. And I called her up on a payphone. I'm dating myself again because there were payphones, right? And do you guys know what skinheads are? Do you know what a skinhead is?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Well, there were a lot of skinheads around there. And when I was on the telephone, one of them came up and started to assault me. He was quite drunk, and he started assaulting me, and it was kind of a hate crime going on, really, because he was calling me something that I wasn't, but that indicated where his head was. And he reached in and hung up the phone on me while I was talking to my fiancée. And I settled him down, and he went away, and I got back on the phone with her, and he came back and assaulted me again, and then I made a very tragic mistake, and I punched the guy because he was pushing me, and I thought he was attacking. I thought he was about to attack me, I punched him, and he went down like a tree falling, so timber, great big kid. And I made good my escape, so to speak. I ran off, and I'd ridden a bicycle to town. I jumped on the bicycle, and I took off, and I didn't realize that there was a van full of skinheads that had witnessed it. There were all his friends. And they drove up alongside of me, I guess, and it hit me with a tire iron or something. And then stomped and kicked me for the better part of an hour. That was my least pleasant death.
Horrifying.
Yeah, that was the worst one. I don't recommend that at all. And I didn't come to for about 4 hours looking into the eyes of an emergency medical guy.
So were you still by the side of the road, or were you in a hospital at that point?
No, I was by the side of the road. I was on the street, and I looked up into this guy's eyes, and he said, "He's back." And I was back, but where I had been was once again in this, kind of extra-dimensional place. Only this time it wasn't as bright and as comfortable. It was there was more sort of force in it. It was darker. There were more entities with me. I felt a lot of hands on me, sort of, and they sort of collectively pushed me back, and I was angry then, Helene. That was the experience then. I did not want to come back to this. It just didn't seem like a good enough place to be compared. And
but when you were in the other dimension, did you feel that was a dark place to be or a neutral place? How did that make you feel?
My sense of it was that it was a darker place. It was a fairly dark place. And that the surroundings were that way because I didn't belong there and because I hadn't been handling life appropriately, and I needed to address things. There were things I needed to do, and that I wasn't going to be left.
Yeah, my perspective on that is like what people like to refer to as hell. I don't view hell as an actual place. I view it as darkness of our own minds.
Yes.
And is that how you felt about it, or did you feel that it was really something different than that?
Well, I could say that it was more hellish, and that, I agree. Hell is a place without love. There was love there because I was being treated kindly, but forcefully. Yeah. And there was Joseph Campbell, I think, said that the kingdom of heaven isn't real estate, And so, one of the things that I want people to know from my experience is that heaven is here. Heaven is in this life. Hell is in this life. You're right. Heaven is a place where there's love and light, and hell is a place where there isn't, and we experience it in this life too. But I kind of feel like in that last experience, what it really was time for me to kind of get down to what my purpose was, that I needed to go back and to knock it off. and I came back, almost changed. I still didn't quite get it, but it didn't take very long after that, where I came back to, I ended up coming back to New York. I had required surgery and stuff to repair myself, and had taken this, these blows to my head again and stuff, and it was quite a convalescence that time. But I ended up back in New York, and I was still living kind of an ego life, but it was becoming very clear to me that there was a whole world of potential that was calling to me. I passed through sort of one final dark soul of the night, as it were, when I started to clear all of these things and to attain the kind of honesty within myself that I needed to move on and start getting to work. And I did. Things really kind of turned around for me. I began meditating, and I began studying things like the Bhagavad Gita or the Gospel of Thomas and the Tao Te Ching, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and the Upanishads. All this writing and stuff. I just suddenly found myself completely engrossed in it. And I sat in meditation for what amounts to kind of years. And I'd had a blog that had artwork on it, and I had started writing some spiritual essays and posting them on it, and they started to gain power on the blog. And a few years later, I felt myself really ready, and I was sort of called. I was called to write this book, and so I really wrote most of it very quickly and got a good response right away, and then worked on it for another couple of years. And that's how it came to pass.
Well, sometimes they want to beat our purpose into us, excuse my pun, but that's what they want to do.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever way necessary.
Yeah.
And your true purpose was to be doing something in the spiritual realm to help the collective consciousness, the way I'm hearing it. So
right. Yeah.
They didn't care what lengths were gone to get you there.
No, and the message really that I have for people is that all kinds of terrible things are going to happen to you, maybe not as bad, hopefully, as what I went through, but it feels like it to each of us anyway. Life, it feels like life is really beating us up sometimes. But when you're going through hell, keep going, right?
I like that, yeah.
You're not coming to some ignominious end, but instead you're passing through a difficult middle. And this too will pass, and there is potential and love on the other side of any difficult situation that you're in. And if you take some simple steps, like my 3 tips for happiness, for example, the first one being radical kindness, you can get to a place where you can really kind of deal with life and death even. And living is dying, and dying is living. We step from one world into the next, just like walking from one room into another. That's my experience, and that's what I'm here to tell
it almost
people.
sounds like you're describing 3 different lives that you've led in this lifetime. Each was obviously you come to this incredible trauma, and things begin to shift yet again, and then you walk away from one life into another life. So it's kind of interesting, very interesting, the way these things happen to you. And the other thing that I'm impressed with, Robert, is you are sharing your experiences and your story. You sound like you're very accepting of yourself. Like there isn't any judgment there, and I like that, because I know I can be pretty hard on myself. A lot of people are hard on themselves and constantly saying, well, I should have done it this way, or I should have done. But what I'm hearing with you is this, well, this is what happened. This is how I did it.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah.
Don't try this at home.
When I was reading your last near-death experience, I was thinking the whole way, it's like, geez, why didn't you get out of there when the guy attacked you the first time? It's like, why did you just get back on the phone, with your fiance? Why not leave the area and disappear?
Yeah.
So it's like all of these other choices that could have been made that weren't made. Yes. So it sounds like you had other escape routes that could have happened earlier on in that whole altercation. But then the one thing that you said that caught my attention was that you made the mistake of hitting the guy. But wasn't the guy already hitting you?
Yeah, he wasn't really like striking me, but he was sort of shoving me or sort of slapping me or pawing me, like in a very rough, forceful way. And the second time he came back, even more so. But yeah, you know what it was? I engaged that energy of violence. And when you engage that energy of violence, then you get that back. It's no solution, right? Mm-hmm. That's something that I learned. And whether it's a psychological violence that you might be perpetrating on someone or actual physical violence, it's the same thing. It's going to create this kind of energy that can snowball then and just get worse and worse. So one of the simple lessons I learned was never engage in an effort to resolve something with violence, because it's not going to work, right?
If you were to do this over again, and here you are being assaulted, what would you do differently now?
Well, I've been in situations kind of like that now, and you know what I do is I stand my ground and I look at the person with as much love as I can possibly muster, and I'll say, something, I'm sorry if I offended you in some way. I really don't mean to be antagonistic to you, and I understand what you're going through, and, I try to identify with the person. The Tao Te Ching says, heaven arms with compassion those whom it would not see destroyed. Right? And so compassion and open-heartedness is the solution to everything. Love plus honesty equals all solutions, I think is the formula I use in the book. So I'd employ that, and the power of it is incredible. It's like radical kindness, You can't believe that you could possibly diffuse something that's that actively violent or difficult, but when you hold your ground with love in your heart, it can transform situations in ways that you never could have imagined possible. It's quite amazing.
And I agree with you, Robert.
Yeah, you make it sound so simple, and it probably is.
It is simple. It is, because the idea is to observe the other person without reacting, and then reacting to them in their direction with kindness and love. And it actually does work to diffuse even simple situations like you'll find in a store or a mall or whatever it is that someone is being terse or not attentive or whatever.
Yes.
It always works. It always works.
Yeah, and
unfortunately, I don't like, you don't want to hear this, but we are human. And so as often as I've done that, it's worked every time. But if I'm overtired and in a bad mood and reacting incorrectly,
Yeah.
Then you end up with a bad situation, right?
We're operating with the machinery we've been given.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I mean, we've got to use the stuff we've got to deal with things. But you might appreciate this, Helene, because I think that it's something that I kind of got by osmosis, so to speak, and that is the way that I believe the angels deal with us, where they can see everything at once without judgment or comparison. They don't label anything. They understand all the impulses and the what underlies psychically that causes us to behave the way that we do. And when you witness somebody like that, without fear, without judgment, without comparison, suddenly you see them for exactly what they are and why they are having to express themselves the way that they are, even if it's, aggressively, angrily. And you can identify then with their humanity in such a way that your energy can reach them and start to transform their energy too.
Well,
and
it
I think that's
them.
an angelic.
I'll tell you that.
I think that's kind of angelic, you know what I mean?
Well, I suppose angels as humans, but the energy of love and compassion especially is so powerful that it actually disarms the person who's angry or reacting badly. And it's really interesting. Angels are a whole different subject because they understand humanity probably 98% because they don't have the same emotional makeup that we do.
Right.
So sometimes they seem to get slightly frustrated with our foolishness because there is a small component that's missing there. Even though they know a lot and can see a lot, there's a little bit of a disconnect because they're not human, and so it's a little bit. They get a little frustrated sometimes in a way.
Yeah, I'm only guessing with it, This is just something that sort of intuitively I feel like I'm much closer to angelic thought and behavior, if there is such a thing, when I'm acting out of love and compassion.
Oh, yes, definitely, yeah. But it is disarming to the other person when you can turn that light on. They absolutely change their whole demeanor, their whole stance, everything. I did want to talk about something that well, the whole book fascinated me anyway, but what I view, and this is just my opinion, I don't know whether you agree with me or not, Patricia, but what I view as the biggest block to people in their lives, in its entirety, is the energy of fear. When you have no fear, you are opening all possibilities. And talking to people about not having fear is difficult because, fear serves a purpose in our life. And I think you even wrote that in your book, and I was applauding you because nobody really likes to look at that aspect. But if we weren't a little bit afraid, then we wouldn't be cautious, we wouldn't protect our lives, we wouldn't secure our homes, whatever it is, right?
Right, yeah.
But the bigger fear that's non-productive is the one that loads of us carry with us every single day. And I remember years ago when I had to make a big, giant leap over fear, it was so hard for me to get to that point. And then when I did, it was just like a moment, Robert, a moment of, what am I afraid of? And it was gone.
Right.
And what advice or what is your opinion of fear in people's lives today?
Well, I like to say as long as we're imagining something, let's imagine something good. A lot of fear is just imagination.
Oh, is it ever?
It's just the ego casting itself into the expectations of the future or regrets from the past or possible outcomes that are of a negative nature, and it happens spontaneously, in this serial thought machine, which is our brains. It just starts to run through all of these terrible possible outcomes of things. And it's kind of our instincts gone amok in a way. You know, it may have started at one point with having to secure food or a place to live, things like that, or, you know, fear for the safety of our loved ones, that sort of thing. There's practical, reasonable applications of a healthy fear. But then it kind of gets spun into these monsters by our egoic imaginations. And the next thing you know, all kinds of terrible things are potentially happening that, you know, a week or two later, you realize they're not happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that you have
most
been
of what
spending.
we worry about never happens anyway. The
right.
things that whack us upside the head that we don't see, we weren't afraid of to begin with. So,
right,
you know,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I say in the book that it's kind of like sleeping, you know, when you hear those statistics for how much of your life you spend asleep, that it's shocking. My goodness, I've been sleeping for years now. Mm-hmm. And being in fear is similar to that. It's like all the time that I spent fearing about things that didn't happen. And then the remarkable thing is that the things that did happen that I feared weren't so bad in retrospect. Lots of times it was just the fear leading up to them that was painful. Because once I started to go through them, you know, it's like, oh, I can do this. This is okay. And so if we know that that's the nature of it, that it's an imaginary thing, then if we can imagine that it's good and, you know, bring to it a new kind of energy to energize it in a more positive way, then you can find yourself in situations like going to court or something like that you hate that actually end up being kind of fascinating and educational. And you walk out of the courtroom and you think, you know, that's not so bad. I understand that now. And then when somebody else you know says, gee, I've got to go to court and I'm not looking forward to it, you can scoop that water up like a water wheel out of the river and come back around and pour it out to them, you know? Mm-hmm. You can say, here's what my experience was, and it was a snap, and you're going to really enjoy your day in court. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's wonderful to be able to transform somebody's perception like that. And from what I understand about fear, just so I can chime in on this, there are only two natural fears. One is falling down, the other is loud noises. And everything else is manufactured, and basically what happens is we run a loop of fear. So we get caught in this loop, and it really has physical ramifications, and we were talking about this last week on the show as well, that the adrenal system gets put into such overload that they don't function. The adrenals don't function as they should, and we actually have a whole culture now that is suffering from adrenal fatigue because we've been caught in this fear loop for so long. And it's a really incredibly empowering thing to be free of fear. And I had only one moment where I encountered a mountain lion in my yard and was able to safely, from a distance, watch the mountain lion. And the mountain lion had no fear, top of the food chain, and it was focused on finding prey that it was tracking. It apparently had lost it and was now back and focused on, I'm going to find this thing no matter what. And I was just so impressed with the mountain lion's energy, and to be in the presence of a magnificent animal like that who had no fear. Like I had never been in the presence of anyone that had no fear, but this mountain lion had no fear. It was a great lesson. Luckily, I was safe, and it's something I'll never forget. But to aspire to that place, to be in that place of no fear, and to feel that free, because then you can really use your intent to create what you want.
Fabulous. Yeah, animals are just so amazing. They are so connected, you know. Yeah, with us, the fear thing, because we tend to be so material, particularly in our modern culture now, it's the fear of losing something we have or not getting something we want. You know, it's kind of that petty in a material way, lots of times.
Well, and also, don't you think, Robert, that in today's world, we're also kind of operating under a cloud of fear that we're not going to survive? There's so many things going on. There's so many earthquakes. There's so much talk about Fukushima and that being a possible extinction event. I mean, there's a lot of things. Solar flares. Right. It seems like there's just things coming at us from all different sides. So that cloud of fear is right over our heads. And what we do with it is our choice, but it's still there.
Here's a lesson that I learned is that if obliteration is the thing that we fear, this is a pretty precarious lash up that we're in here all the time. I didn't know these things were going to happen to me. I didn't have a protracted illness or anything. These things happened spontaneously, and suddenly I was obliterated, so to speak. And so it can be in these lives at any time. I think most people who die, don't expect it right at the moment that it comes, And there's always these aspects of our material existence that, hold that potential for destruction and obliteration and all of that, but it's not the end of us. Consciousness carries on. Consciousness informs all the dimensions and our next life as well. And my experience was that I wasn't attached to the body anymore, but I was off to something else, and so we will be. I'm quite certain.
So these experiences really left you with, again, a very profound sense of freedom. That's a nice thing to have.
It is, yeah. It reminds me of something that you were talking about earlier about not giving yourself many breaks or being hard on yourself, right? That my second tip for happiness, is radical forgiveness. That when you perceive that...
Before you get into radical forgiveness, this is a great one, and I can't wait to talk to you about this, and I know, Helene, you wanted to.
Yeah.
Let's take a short commercial break. We will be right back. And if you have a question for Robert, the number to call is 646-478-0828. Again, that number is 646-478-0828. We will be right back.
This is Veronique Raskin, founder of the Organic Wine Company. As one of the pioneers of the organic wine movement, since 1980 I have brought you the very best and most authentic organic wines directly to your table. I work with small family estates who grow certified organic grapes and produce exceptional wines. You can purchase our wines individually from our website at theorganicwinecompany.com or join one of our wine clubs. Our organic wines are perfect for you and for your family as gifts for friends and relatives, and they are simply spectacular for the holidays. Visit us at theorganicwinecompany.com to enjoy the very best organic wines conveniently delivered to your door. I am Veronique Raskin, passionate about my mission. I offer to you vegan, organic, and biodynamic wines, wines made by people of the heart, wines with a heart. Au revoir. Call us at 1-888-ECO-WINE.
Your property tax bill. Have you seen it lately? It's frightening. Your property taxes are going up while your home value is going down. It's time to fight back and win. For the real truth about the property tax system, get attorney Pat Quintilian's book, Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Attorney Quintilian answers all your questions and gives you the facts you need to fight a property tax bill that is spiraling out of control. You'll also read about what happens to property owners who don't check their property records, only to find out too late they're taxed on square footage, fixtures, and even buildings that they don't own. Is this happening to you? Learn your rights. Buy attorney Pat Quintilian's book today. Are you getting screwed on your property taxes? How to find out and how to fix it. Available on Amazon.com. Are you ready for a new experience of freedom and powerful connection? Would you like a positive, effortless change in your life? Then come to CosmicFusion.com, where we offer the most advanced energy clearing and expansion techniques in the world, with a quantum vortex energy to activate your divine blueprint and life's purpose. When your soul leads the way with cosmic fusion and quantum vortex energy, you can break clear of past difficulties and blocks with the power of the source. With cosmic fusion, the source energy does the work for you. It's easy and effortless. Listen to our free meditation right from our Cosmic Fusion website, the Cosmic Code Meditation. Sign up for one of our interactive webinars today. Come to Cosmic Fusion, www.KOSMICfusion.com, to experience an effortless awakening and transformation. Are you ready for an upgrade? Are you ready for a new experience of living in the fifth dimensional magic and powerful connection? Then visit CosmicFusion.com today. CosmicFusion.com.
Tonight with Robert Kopecky, who is the author of How to Survive Life and Death, a guide for happiness in this world and beyond. So, Robert, just before the break, we started to talk about radical forgiveness. Tell us more about that.
Radical forgiveness, yes. Well, like the kid who attacked me, the skinhead that I described, I had to forgive him, right? To get to a place within myself where I could move on and where I could grow, I had to recognize that he was just dealing with things the way he knew how to deal with them. And it's thus with everything. Everybody we encounter, if we think somebody has really done us wrong, and maybe they have, if it's justified, they really are just humans who are just dealing with what they have to work with. And if we can recognize that we're just kind of a small but nonetheless significant part of this much larger sort of invisible machinery, spiritual machinery of this incredible system that we live in, and that love is underlying everything, that there's this sort of field of love, this fabric of love that connects everything and all the good things in our life, all the wholeness and healing and completeness that we experience. We look at people without judgment or comparison as much as we possibly can. Then you can look at the circumstances in which you see you've been done wrong, or the sort of grief that you have about it, and make a decision to let go of it. Radically forgive whoever it is that's doing the terrible thing to you or has done the terrible thing to you. If you can bring all those factors to bear, this kind of reasonable logic and open-heartedness, then you can just let go of it. You don't have to carry it around anymore. And it creates a tremendous freedom in you. And likewise, then, you may recognize the role that you actually played in it. I mean, I punched that kid, right? That was a dumb thing for me to do. That was a wrong thing for me to do. I should not have been so stupid. How could I have thought that was the right way to be? I should have known better. Well, I can radically forgive myself, too, because I'm going to make my mistakes. None of us are perfect. It's just not going to work that way. And I can let go of those things that I regret as best as I can. Let go with both hands, and move on from that with this kind of lightness and freedom, so that if we actually can practice that, then when we face these circumstances again where we may not be handling things the best way we can, it's okay. It's not a big deal. We're there to learn. It's going to work out. And if somebody else is doing something that's crazy, sort of wrong, in a way, that's how people are, and that's all right. Everything is doing what it needs to do to move back, to find its way back to love. And some paths just aren't as graceful as others, right? So we forgive that. And there's where you stumble is where you find your treasure, I think is a great line. And everybody's going through that. So we have to witness some people stumbling and allow them to do that without energizing it the wrong way,
But again, that you're saying wonderful things. And it's for the average person or anybody, I think that's really difficult to sit there and forgive an attacker. I mean, this person made decisions too, and it cost you in terms of your health and wellness. You were in the hospital, you had major surgeries. This was no easy recuperation that you went through after this major attack where you were beaten for over an hour. You're lucky that you survived it. And I'm trying to wrap my mind around this, Robert. It's not easy.
Well, I don't just walk around like full of love and forgiveness all the time.
Well, thank goodness for that.
Right, it is difficult. These are high goals, but if you're reaching for them, then you're heading in the right direction. And if you're just trying, I know in my case, I can talk to you about these things. I can practice them in my life, and lots of times I can practice them pretty effectively, and other times it's just hard to get by. It's just rougher to deal with than at other times. But I can hold it in my heart as an ideal that I'm aiming for, and then it does a lot. It makes things a lot better. I'm much closer to happiness than I would be if I were to just allow myself to stay in the hurt and to carry around somebody else's baggage,
Well, that's something definitely nobody should ever do, is carrying around somebody else's baggage. And just to revisit this whole last near-death experience, this whole incident, I was shocked to read that the police were totally unsupportive of you in this incident, that they really didn't want to arrest the skinheads that had assaulted you and caused you such physical pain. I didn't get that. I mean, why were the police not doing their job in this?
Well, I don't really know. I wasn't there to ask them about it so much. It's just the way things are. I mean, there are things about life that do not appear to be fair or appropriate at all a lot of the time.
And this is definitely one of them. I mean, gosh, I admire your courage and your ability to walk away from the whole thing, because you felt you weren't going to get anywhere if you had tried to work with the police on this. They weren't going to work with you. It's unfortunate that this happens a lot from what I'm reading in the news in our society, but it's a tall order, I think, for people to walk away from an incident like that, not try to get justice or what we perceive to be justice. Those people that were let go certainly were going to do that again to somebody else. So I agree with you in what you're saying, that it's best not to carry around anybody else's baggage. It's best to forgive, if you can, yourself, first and foremost, for being in that position. But there's another place where I have to question this and say, but where is it right, or where is it okay, or where is it spiritual to let people like that continue to move through the world unimpeded, because they're going to hurt other people?
they're not stopped.
There are some things that we can have an effect on, and some things we can't. And one of the big tricks is kind of getting to a place in your life where you can recognize what you may have control of and what you don't have control of. In that particular case, those kids were closer to the police than they were to me, or the police were closer to those kids than they were to me. They maybe had similar military backgrounds or small town backgrounds. Maybe I think I mentioned they kind of wore the same kind of boots.
Yes, you did say that. Yes,
that sort of thing. So that's just the way that it is. That's just how those circumstances worked. And you rightly alluded to something earlier that when you said that these women kind of fell by the wayside, and I talked about leading not such an upstanding, kind of a wayward and riotous life, and so I have to recognize that there's karma, that there's the creation of cause and effect in my life, that I wouldn't have been there had I not put my whole body and soul into that location in the course of my life,
Yeah.
And so there was a propriety to it, and I understand it. And in understanding that allows me then also the ability to wrap my head around it a little more so I can let go of those things.
Well, that makes
sometimes
sense.
It's without cause. It seems to be without cause sometimes. But that's because we just can't see everything that's going on. We have a rather limited picture of everything.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And also, just to acknowledge your upbringing with an alcoholic family, that also does create its own damage, and it's often hard, what I found from my therapeutic practice when I worked with people from environments like that. It was really hard for children to grow up in environments like that and have a good sense of discernment. Very difficult to cultivate that in an alcoholic family. And so many of the things you've mentioned, that's what I've heard. It's a lot about discernment, a lot about making best decisions for yourself and understanding a lot about the situations you're in. So just a sidebar comment from the peanut gallery over here.
Yeah, well, things are, it's absolutely true. Things are not operating appropriately around you when you're young and when you're learning things, and so it's difficult to be able to pick them out later, kind of right from wrong sometimes, because you may not get the kinds of lessons that you need as a youngster to be able to employ later in your life.
That's right. But my goodness, what a beautiful book you've written, and what a turnaround you've done in your life. Now, I know Helene mentioned at the beginning of the show the monk that she saw. Is that, Helene, what you would call Robert's one of his spirit guides?
He feels more like a guardian to me.
A guardian, wow. Now,
yeah, it's a spirit guide, but it's someone who's been with you for your whole life. And he's telling me there are many others, but he's the main one who's hanging out with you a lot.
Nice.
He's also telling me that you are much more intuitive than you're letting on. So he's calling you out a little bit, Robert, sorry. That actually, he's talking about the meditations that you do now, that you wrote about in your book. They're very informative to you. And actually, you're really connecting at a high level. And this really is your calling in life. You finally reached your purpose. The purpose was there when you were a youngster, when you were talking about being in the woods and talking to American Indians and all of that kind of thing. It was there, but it was sort of like ignored on some level by you, on a very conscious, awake level. It was, you enjoyed it when you were in it, but then it was not in your mind during life, But he's very clear that he's your main guide. I call him a guardian because he's very powerful around you. And why don't you tell people that you're also intuitive?
Well, thank you for all of that, first of all, Helene. That's wonderful. I do, to a degree. I mean, I'm fully invested in the magic of this whole thing, right? And that's one of my big messages, is that if you doubt any of this, you think it's woo-woo, or you just can't go there, well, this is a pretty magical place, set of circumstances that we're in, right? Just by its nature, right? We're on this planet out in outer space and all that. It's okay, Anything is really possible when that's what you start from. So I'm entirely open to any of the possibilities of that this sort of spiritual understanding can open up to me. And I, like I mentioned earlier, I don't have as great a faith in my intellect as I do in my intuitive intelligence, which I feel is the intelligence that connected to the consciousness of love and the universe, so to speak. This kind of universal knowledge that we are all heir to. So often in our culture we put our faith into technology, and then lots of times the people who doubt the kind of conversation that we're having, or the nature of spirituality, are sort of invested in materialism and technology and stuff, and the power of that technology that's in our world is invisible too, largely, and faith is invisible too. But one can lose its source of power and be good for nothing, and the other never loses power. And so when I really believe, when I really have faith, then I can energize my intuition and start to hear that voice of reason and become a witness to my regular thinking that is involved with fears and stuff like that. And I just find that there are a lot of people who aren't able to really hear it if I tell them, if I get magical on them right away. They're not necessarily going to bear with me very long. But if I can find some way to identify with their experience of life and to then speak to them in a way that they can understand and engage in, then that's what I try to do.
But you can speak magically to some crowds.
Yeah, definitely.
So you need to kind of balance a little bit more, because your purpose is to call people to spirituality, but the other part of that is also talking to people who are also spiritual, just like everybody who listens to this show. We don't have non-believers listening, do we, Patricia?
No, we don't have any non-believers at all.
No, I get the sense that you guys and your listeners all know what I'm talking about exactly, pretty much.
Yeah.
But then it is to people that are maybe just on the edge, or who are just being sort of awakened to this potential. That I find, I find something that I really want to reach. Because I was a skeptic, like I said, I was quite blind to most of this for much of my life, and skeptical and willful, and just so it doesn't take you so much like getting beat up and bouncing back to discover these things.
Really?
That's kind of what I have in mind,
Yeah. What's the industry like, though, Robert? I mean, you work in the television industry. Do you find that the people in the television industry are accepting of the paranormal or not?
Well, not so much for the most part. My experience has been that they aren't. At one point I was I'm mainly in animation production now. I'm an animation designer, and I'm not working in TV right at the moment. The last jobs that I had in TV were in children's programming, and specifically for PBS Kids for a show called WordWorld, in which case I kind of felt like it was sort of a service thing, teaching kids how to read and stuff. It was quite nice, and so there's a spiritual aspect to that, and everyone who's involved in it is there because that's where they want to be. But when it comes to the sort of commercial aspect of television production, it isn't particularly spiritual. There are individuals that are involved in it and are growing, and have great consciousness. But for the most part, it's kind of what you see is what you get when you turn on your TV. You can see it there.
Well, it's a business, so obviously a lot of the executives are business people, and they're running a business, and it has to make money, and they have to have ratings and all of that. But with all the paranormal shows that have been on television, they're doing very well. I was just wondering if the consciousness is changing in the industry to actually accept this. So it sounds like little by little maybe, huh?
Yeah, I don't really have a good grasp on that because I don't really work in that management level enough to know what those conversations are like there. But when I was a kid, nobody cared about cutting down all the trees, and nobody cared about recycling anything. Nobody cared about pouring the used chemicals into the river. And now everyone does. There's consciousness in this world that's growing by leaps and bounds, exponentially. It's just flooding this plane. And so things, places where formerly hadn't reached before are being reached, and our popular media is no exception for that. So it's getting better and better. There are more and more ways in which the really spiritual messages can come through popular media now than ever before, I think. So we can hope for the best, and hope for the best, and try to add to it if possible. I hope that answered your question.
It did answer my question, absolutely. And you have one more radical tip, which is radical surrender. So we have a few minutes left. Tell us a little bit about radical surrender.
Well, it's this not the sense of surrender as a pejorative or sort of a challenge to your ability to control life. It's most people, it's like, surrender, no way. You're not going to get me to surrender, that sort of thing. Well, I like to. A lot of guys are like that. I like to point out that when things are going really, really well for you, you are surrendered completely. Why would you fight it, right? Things are going great.
Right.
So you're not fighting anything. The universe is carrying you in a way that is really good for you. It's when things go wrong, when things are difficult. Now fear and willfulness enter into it. You feel like you have to do something. You have to be able to do something to change it, to get it back on the right track. There must be some way that you can manipulate things to make the outcome better. Well, that energy then starts to create the complications that can make things worse lots of times in a way. And if you're able to think about being surrendered when things are going good, then just get in touch with that same sense of surrender when things are going bad. The Native Americans say if you're paddling too hard upstream, turn your canoe around, right? Because the same thing that carries you when things are going really well will carry you when things are going really bad. And you don't have to try so hard. You don't have to work at it so hard. So it's surrender then into kind of that sort of blissful surrender in a way, even when things are bad. You just try your best to re-energize it and release the need to control things, and watch what happens. Practice radical kindness and radical forgiveness too. That's why radical surrender is the third one. And
these are great tips. And again, as you mentioned, people might find it a bit challenging to embrace all of these, but it's something, like you said, you can hold in your heart and aspire to these things. And even like you were suggesting, do them short term. Try something for a day or 2 days, so you don't feel like
try it. Right.
I have to do it all week. All week may be too much when you're getting started.
Hopefully you can do it all the time, but of course nobody can. It's just not possible to maintain these high ideals all the time. But if you know about it and you're trying, then you're getting there and you're improving the conditions in your life and in all the people's lives that you come in contact with too. And this is the stuff that carries on, I believe, from this life to the next, right? The thing about modern media and the like, having businesses and all of that stuff is great. It's wonderful. Ambition is a good thing in a lot of cases, but there really is another definition of success that underlies all of this. And we're talking about spiritual growth and expression and freedom, spiritual freedom, I think.
Well, again, this is wonderful. Your tips are very challenging, and yet they're simple, and they make perfect sense. And I know, Helene, you have already embraced these much better than most. So I know you understand this from the perspective of being a psychic medium and seeing all of these different realms that you see.
Well, I have to agree that I'm not perfect and that we just do the best we can, and as we move along, we somehow progress, right, Robert?
Yeah, and there it is again.
Sometimes you don't know how you get to the progression. Sometimes it's just that true, holy instant, the way the Course in Miracles book describes it, really. You kind of work at it, and one day you wake up and it's just there. And, like yourself, have you found that that's happened to you, that it's just sort of been a holy instant at different points in your life?
Sometimes I really am just enveloped and carried by it. It's the times when I'm not too invested in my thinking or who I am or who people think I am. Don't they know who I think I am, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there it is again. There's the love, right? There is love, and I sometimes I hesitate to talk so much about that because people get such a squishy feeling about it. It's like, he's talking about love again. He's waxing about love, but there it is, just in what you said, just in this moment. It underlies all of this effort for us to find a way to come back to that.
Well, that's the challenge and the gift. So, again, thank you so much, Robert, for spending your Saturday evening with us on Supernatural Girls Radio. And again, the name of Robert's book is How to Survive Life and Death, a guide for happiness in this world and beyond. It is available on Amazon.com. So, Robert, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a wonderful conversation, very enlightening.
Well, I had a really great time. Thank you guys so much, and thank you for your messages, Helene. I really appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome.
And,
you
if
don't
I
really
can just
need
say
them, though. Kind of funny. They're still laughing at you.
If I can just tell people, too, that I have a blog where I write and post regularly stuff, robertkopecky.blogspot.com. It's called Art, Faith, and the Cocoa Lion.
Cool.
And, I do Facebook and Twitter and stuff, too, now. So, but it's really been such a great pleasure.
Yeah.
Robert Kopecky. My last name is Kopecky. robertkopecky.blogspot.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
And thank you so much. It's been such a
you're
welcome.
pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you so much, Robert. God bless in everything that you do.
You are welcome, and blessings to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So, Helene, what a wonderful show this evening. Very enlightening. I feel
he's such a wonderful speaker and really gets the point across. I have to say, though, it's kind of humorous on occasion when I'm just having a conversation like this and other things are popping up in my head.
Well, I love that you shared about meeting the monk. That's why I wanted to get back to that again before the end of the show. That was great.
Oh, he's delightful. And it's very interesting that Robert is spiritually advanced he was spiritually advanced all his life. He was just ignoring it, and they literally had to whack him to get him to wake up.
I guess so. He got whacked pretty good.
And there are people who this happens to. That they come in with an absolute purpose spiritually, and if they're not right on it early on, the entities in charge make sure that you hear about it at some point. They don't let it go. You can't escape a purpose like that.
That's right.
It's tough that he had to go through so many battles, but
oh my goodness, especially that last one is miserable.
Oh,
my goodness,
horrifying.
Yeah.
So I mean, he finally got it.
I guess so.
And is absolutely living his purpose beside his regular work and whatever we have to do in life. But it's amazing story.
Very inspiring, and again, I love his acceptance of himself. He takes it all without self-judgment, and this has been a great evening, and I'm so glad that you came on the show tonight.
Well, thank you for having me.
Really,
thank you so much.
Oh,
thank you.
It's so much fun to have you back here. And we will be together again on Thursday at 8 o'clock. Do you have a name for your show?
Dreamcom.
Oh, that's the name of the show, the name of my book.
Yeah, I believe so.
My God, I'm so honored.
I could be wrong. I'm so scattered in every direction, but Dreamcom is the name of your book on Kindle.
It is.
And we'll be talking about everybody's dreams. We hope lots of people call in with their questions.
Oh, God, that's going to be fun. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I can't wait for Thursday now. Yeah. But this has been a great, great show, and I hope people have become inspired and will attempt some of these radical kindness challenges that he put forth in his book and all these wonderful other things. So thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. Next week is the big election, Helene. The big election in my very small town and the big town meeting. So there will be no show next week because it's going to be all I can do to sit through that horrible town meeting. Oh, God bless us, everyone, for having the tenacity to sit through the town meeting. Why can't they do this by a ballot? Just like send us a ballot in an email. No, they've got to have discussions. They've got to have us go to the town hall. It's like, oh, please. Let's all come into the 21st century. So, anyways, that's where I'm going to be next Saturday. So, in 2 weeks, we are going to have one of the premier tarot card readers in the world. He's going to be here with us. And he is somebody who has worked with CEOs and billionaires and very important people everywhere, from Japan, from China to the United States, and he's going to be talking about tarot cards, how to work with them for our businesses, and how to do all kinds of things with tarot cards we never even thought of. So I can't wait to have him on the show. That's May 10th. It's going to be a great show.
Can you say his name?
Thomas Caldwell.
Oh, that will be fascinating, Patricia.
Oh, yeah.
Tarot cards are my first love. Yeah.
Oh, me too. I mean, that's how I think both of us got started in this. And so I cannot wait to have him on. He is quite a speaker, and he has a tremendous amount of knowledge. And he's going to give personal stories also about how tarot cards helped a lot of his clients and how they can help us. And that's what we want to know. So that'll be 2 weeks from tonight. So in the meantime, everybody be safe, be in the loving fabric of life, and stay tuned for further fantastic shows from both Helene and myself, Patricia Baker, Supernatural Girls. Good night, Helene.
Good night, Patricia.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another radio adventure with Supernatural Girls.